And a big tip just from my personal experience is what's going on, ladies and gentlemen. Kevin Jacob here for Build Vision. Welcome to the channel. If you guys are new, this channel basically encompasses me giving you guys the tools and talking about how you can actually develop a creative lifestyle to where you're doing what you love, living life on your terms, making a profit. We cover, how to develop your passions, how to be more creative, tools and tips from photography, graphic design, drawing, sketching, anything that's considered to be a creative profession. I teach you how to monetize it, I teach you how to scale it, and I teach you how, ways that in this digital age you can kind of use it and utilize it to make it your lifestyle. In today's video, it is going to be basically talking on the topic of creativity, how exactly you can get in a creative mood, how you can harness that artsy feeling, making it so that you have an easier process, being able to actually produce these ideas. As you guys see behind me, I love using whiteboards, I love doing brainstorming and creating, whether it be different marketing funnels or just in general, just really creating and brainstorming different ideas. So let's just jump right into it. Make sure you guys are gonna stick around to the end of the video. I'm gonna give you a quick tips list that you can actually implement and start doing daily. That kind of goes in addition to what I'm going to talk about in this video. So make sure you stick around to the end to make sure you see that and get that value. Let's just jump right into it. I made this little chart. I cannot wait to show you guys. So let's start off top right. What do you think? All right, so our top right, ask the proper questions. Now, this one kind of is one of those things that you probably hear a lot of people say. For instance, like Tony Robbins and things like that, they always say, you're not asking the proper questions, you're not asking questions that are going to get you to where you want to be. And so I want to give you kind of some examples of what questions are actually proper to ask. Now, when you're kind of in that creative flow and in that creative process, a lot of people don't necessarily feel that there's inspiration right off the bat. They actually have to search for it, they actually have to do things. And now there are some instances where it shoots in your mind and you just have this creative thoughts, but a lot of time that comes in, the absorption phase, which we'll talk about a little later. But asking the proper questions of like getting that why. So there's a difference between what and why. What is kind of what you're doing, and then the why is the purpose behind what you're doing. And usually our creative tendencies actually come from the why questions. So you want to ask deep questions, you want to ask questions that are going to get your brain fired up to really think. So for instance, with this channel, if somebody were to think that they didn't have creativity, for instance me, if I didn't have creativity for this channel, I would ask something along the lines of, what can I do to impact the most people and help the most people right now? Or what is a problem that I see and I want to change, and what is the reason for me wanting to change that? Instead of just asking, what can I do today to make this video cool? Things that are actually going to give you a purpose, give you a kind of a second switch or a second notch up in your brain to actually create those creative ideas and have some insight that's going to vary. Moving to our next point, our little sticky note here is just outlining that physiology is your actual productivity. It boosts brain power. It makes it so that you have this incredible surge of just energy through your brain and creative juices flowing. And now if you don't know what physiology is, basically it's the movement of your body. And it's interesting because in psychology, in neuroscience, it actually shows that our bodies react before our brains. The different levels of consciousness, we don't have to necessarily get into it today, but it actually shows that our body language and the way that we, portray ourselves, or if we're sitting up straight and, talking as if it's just confidently and you're really feeling what you're saying, rather than, down low. And it truly does make a difference in how your brain actually performs. Your body tells your brain how to think. So what you'll notice is if somebody's actually getting sad, or they're getting in a mood where they're not creative, they're getting writer's block, whatever it might be, then they're actually going to slump over and kind of get in that sad, weird, slumped over state before they actually even have the thought of writer's block. So it's interesting. You can also, read body language, see it, but one thing that's a huge tip is just sit up straight if you're sitting down. If not, go for a run. A lot of creatives and stuff say that running is actually, super beneficial to the creative process. It gets your body in action and your brain follows. So moving to our next point. This is going to be an exercise that really puts your creative thinking on the fast track. And what you do is actually you take a look around you and you make up, it can be one different story, but you use 10 different items around you, whether it be a lamp, like for instance my whiteboard, that fan remote, things like that, where you basically kind of improv and just make it so it's this whole detailed story, and you make up backstories for each of the objects and how they're used and what they do, and it actually gets your creative mind flowing, and it takes that kind of energy and that blocked effort towards whatever it is that you're thinking, and just makes it so that your brain kind of fires up into the creative cylinders and so to speak, really gets your creativity firing, and then you can come back to a topic, and that's really going to be beneficial to see exactly what it is that you need to see, and have those different opinions, different thoughts with that creative mind. Now, moving into the next one, make time and create a strict discipline. Now, this one's interesting, but it is, all of these, by the way, guys, are backed by neuroscience. So going into this one, it showcases that you really need to actually set apart time to have creative thought and creative thinking. They say that you should separate work from creativity, and we're going to also talk about that more in the consuming versus actually absorbing phase. But actually going into just making a strict schedule, a strict discipline where that you're going to have this set apart time to actually just brainstorm and think, that's actually going to get your mind into the opinion where it has this area and time to practice. It has this feeling of, I can do it. I can not have to focus on anything else. It gets your mind at ease for, the rest of the day, or the rest of your thoughts that are kind of cluttered in your mind, and it really just allows you to focus on that. It goes, same thing if you're trying to work out. You just have to set apart that certain time to make sure that you do it and stay disciplined on it, no matter, what the case may be, what the circumstance. You just have to make sure you do it. And really, you're going to see after a couple of days of consistently doing it that your brain actually automatically clicks in if you're disciplined and routine enough at that certain time. And moving on to our next point, turn problems on their head. And so I put Henry Ford on there because I want to share with you guys a story. If you don't know already, Henry Ford, obviously the Ford Motor Company, the cars, he is the founder and the one who innovated everything. But really, what ended up happening was, with Henry Ford, he was noticing that cars were taking forever to build. He realized that, wow, I actually am not being as productive as I possibly can with my team members, with my staff, with the factory that I have. And while his thoughts were kind of going like this, they would actually have the model of the car sit still, and the workers would actually move around it, or come and go with the tools and with the actual parts and stuff to build it. And so what he actually did was, what can I do instead of having this stationary car and these workers moving all the time? Because not only are the workers, not being as productive as they can because they're moving back and forth, but also that car is not moving, and they have to wait for certain things to be done. And there was just a lot of errors that were super evident just going into actually the production of each and every car. And so what he did is he completely turned that problem around and thought of it, as just upside down. And so what he did is he actually made the workers stationary instead of the car, and made that car actually move down a conveyor belt, and that's what we know as the assembly line today. So it really just shows that if you kind of flip your thinking completely, it's really going to be beneficial, and you may get some insight that you didn't get before, or lack to kind of think of. So moving in to our counterfactual thinking. Now, counterfactual thinking is, as you guys know, counter means different or opposing as well, and factual is just the truth, cold hard fact thinking. And so what could have, I put what could have there. You could also say what could have been. So basically, if you take a situation that you want to kind of assess or create some interesting perspective or creative juices around, where you're actually thinking a little differently, you go to that creative thing or an event similar to that in the past, that you've had in your own experience, or something that you've seen on TV, or something that that's actually happened. And basically what you do is you turn it on its head once again, with that kind of flipping the problem, but you do it with a specific question, which is just what could have happened in this situation, rather than what actually happened. What could have happened? What could have happened if this went correctly? What could have happened if this was the actual best thing for humanity, or anything like that? That's really going to get your creative juices flowing. It ties into asking the proper questions. It's a great one to actually just get into and dive into, to really start getting that thought provoking and just thinking a different way than what you're doing. All right, guys, so let's move into the quick tips that I can talk to you about, what you can implement, and we're going to get into a little more depth. So quick tips. Number one, embrace failure. This is a huge mindset shift that is very, very important for when you're actually trying to produce creative thoughts or produce creative actions. And by embracing failure, it's not necessarily saying that you seek failure. However, it is saying that you don't shy away from it. But it's rewiring the thought process on failure to not be like, oh, I failed and I didn't create this, I have writer's block, I'm not doing that. But instead thinking of it as, I'm learning from this, I'm growing from this, I'm getting closer to the outcome that I desire rather than I'm failing and being set back. You just continuously think that it's a notch on your belt and it's, a chip in the process of actually getting to the outcome that you desire. Second, realize it's a numbers game. You are going to fail. You are going to have, upsets and things. And not every single creative idea or idea that you have is going to be a brilliant one. There's a lot of ideas that I have personally that I just don't even think about again, because I realize that like in the moment they sound completely great and I'm like, oh, that's gonna revolutionize the world. And then I think about it later, I'm just like, dude, what are you thinking? But really it's a numbers game. So you pick and choose the right ones and you don't get discouraged. You just continuously build and try to develop these ideas and think about different topics, ask different questions, get your head in that right place, be disciplined. And work and consume, not both. This is interesting because what a lot of people think is that you have to set apart, that discipline time, like how I was saying, to actually work and be able to, I need this to think. But in reality, it's shown in research that if you have those absorption periods where you're, potentially watching informational movies or things that could kind of go along with the topic but allows your brain to be preoccupied and where you can release, you actually get ideas. Those are the ideas that kind of pop in your head and you have those aha moments. But it's really just a matter of balancing, that actual consumption versus producing. You want to have the time to, step away from things, regather your thoughts, regather yourself, because sometimes when we get so wrapped up in what it is that we're thinking and it's not necessarily the idea that we want, we just continuously go down that rabbit hole and it's not going to be as beneficial as just taking a step back and really looking from a different perspective and just from a relaxed, positive mindset. Which brings me into the next point. Positive mood equals creativity. This is huge and 100% certain, backed by research. When you are in a creative mood, you are going to create so much better. And not only are you going to create so much better, but you're going to create more often. You're going to want to create and you're going to actually associate creating with positivity, and that's going to make it so that you don't have those writer blocks as often. Makes it so that you actually want to get out and create and continuously think, and kind of have that work and consume mode be just both, very, not where you have to take a break, but where it's like, oh, I can't wait to watch this because I'm going to be thinking about this. And what I actually do sometimes is if I'm watching a movie or a documentary, I'll actually have a topic in the back of my head that I want to kind of think about, or, whether it be making a video or if it's how can I make people feel a little bit more creative, what can I do to help? And then I'll kind of watch the documentary and pull bits and pieces as well as kind of constructively create in my mind, but not necessarily go into as depth as having the actual detailed work laid out in front of me. Now, I'm sure you guys have heard you keep that notebook by your bedside because a lot of times that's when it does happen. Those creative moments pop in your head when you're just thinking, randomly. But what I would say, and a big tip just from my personal experience is, absorb a bunch of different information, some that doesn't even necessarily have to do with the topic that you're trying to create. Sometimes we get inspiration from things that we would never even expect. So you just have to get out there and not limit yourself to only having, those work thoughts or that specific thought, but you want to really just pull in different pools and see where you get creativity from, kind of track exactly where it is. So, some big things for today. Let's zoom out for us. So some big things for today, as you guys can see here. If you want to screenshot this, go ahead. But really, it's just asking the proper questions, getting your body to engage first and getting yourself up and actually moving to produce those following reactions in your brain. Make up that story, get those creative juices flowing, make it so it's something fun and interesting to you, to where you can transfer just that mindset of actually having that creative thought of the story you're creating and making it transfer into something else. Take time to create a strict discipline. Treat it as if you're working out. Treat it as if you have to set a certain time for lunch or something like that, where you're going to do it every day, or if not every day, you're going to do it consistently on a disciplined basis. And turn problems on their head. If you're not finding a solution one way, completely flip it, or just think about things from a different perspective. Disassociate yourself from whatever it is that you're thinking about if you have block, and look at it from a different view, different mindset. Counterfactual thinking, asking what could have been or what could be, the what if questions are actually good in this circumstance. And the quick tips, of course, as I just went over, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. That's going to wrap it up for today. Make sure you subscribe down below. I'm going to be talking about so many different things, creativity, and how you can actually be a creative and just leverage the life that you want. I'm going to be giving profit tips, money tips, income tips from my background as a digital marketer. And now, am I, the most creative person in the world? I don't know, but I'm not going to say that I am. But I am going to tell you that, I have a lot of knowledge that I've learned from experience and stuff, and I would love to share it with you guys. Love to give you, what I needed when I was coming up, and really just some of the realizations that I've found. So thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Comment down below some of your hacks and some of your, little schemes that you do to actually become productive and have that creative mindset. So thank you guys once again. I will see you in the next video.